Hello everybody, name's Biprosto and welcome to the first episode of my series about using the WebXR API. Yes, I learned how to spell it properly. In this video, we'll be touching more so on the history of and the use cases for the WebXR API rather than its actual usage just yet. But don't worry, we'll get a boilerplate up and running. Not with VR functionalities just yet, you'll have to wait for that some time, but we'll get there, and we'll get there pretty fast. I hope for this to be somewhat of a bi-weekly or hopefully more frequently coming out series that will cover everything from the basics to the more advanced parts about using the WebXR API for VR device support purposes. In this series, we'll be using both WebGL 2 and WebGL as means of rendering graphics, and we'll also be using the Web Audio API with Resonance Audio for that 3D ear glazing effect. 3D audio. So, today, I wanted to start the series off by talking about what's probably the most important part of all of this. Why use WebXR in the first place? Like, what advantages does it have over any other VR device support layer ever? Well, first off, it works in the web browser, no extensions or any of that needed. And it's the only VR device support layer for the web browsers that is currently supported and developed. Unlike WebVR, which has been used for that up until fairly recently, when it stopped being supported in favor of this, the WebXR API. And to be completely honest, I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but as someone who has learned both of these technologies, I'm pretty confident in saying that WebXR is a very good step forward for VR support for the web browser. You see, it's simply a lot more logical, everything is simpler and it's pretty consistent. I like it a lot. So now, you may be asking yourself if there are any benefits to learning how to use the WebXR API along with WebGL instead of just going to already made solutions for this like A-Frame or Babylon.js among others. And the answer is, in fact, simple. No, there aren't. Unless you want total control over every single thing that happens in your application, or want to optimize things to the next level, which solutions such as A-Frame rarely cover, or that will, or you are making or planning on making, or want to learn about making a game engine that will support building games for the web browser, and along with that, do it with VR support. Again, because you might have forgot the beginning, unless you care for any of these, this knowledge may just be useless to you, like completely. But if you aren't any of these, yet you stay for the tutorial, you, just like anyone else, you really want to learn something new just for the sake of it, apparently in your case. Now, let's go over the gear I'll be using to test out the creations in this tutorial. First off, the computer, whether it's a PC, a laptop, a tablet with a keyboard, or even without one. It doesn't really matter what you use for this entry. What matters is its usage itself. It will be the main development device. We'll run the tests on it, we'll write the code on it, and do anything we'd really expect from it, like running the application actually, like the server side. Second comes the phone. You see, a lazy piece of a person. I don't want to get up from my comfortable office-grade IKEA chair and run an entire VR setup to test out one small change to the application, like for instance adding a 3D model somewhere in front of the player, among many others really. So for these little easy tests, we can just simply use a phone. We've probably heard it many times. Most modern phones have both the gyroscope and the accelerometer needed to achieve simple VR capabilities. I, however, call that bullshit. I've had so many phones. I wish so much would have VR functionality. I simply cannot count them. It took me ages to actually find an affordable one that can do it. I don't know what the fact that so many people seem to think that almost every single phone on the market has these capabilities says, and whether it says it about those people or me, I frankly don't care. Just check if your phone can do VR. If it can, you're good to follow along the VR tests on the phone. If it can, you'll have to test pretty much everything in the headset, which, by the way, is not really that much of a hassle. I just said I'm too lazy to actually do that every single time. Oh yeah, you'll probably need a VR headset also. If you don't have a VR capable phone or a VR headset, I'm not sure how you're going to run the tests for your application reliably. I do have a way to do that saved somewhere. I'm not sure how it works. I think I'll work on it. Work on, like testing it. Okay, so after this quite extensive preamble, let's see what we need to get everything working. First of all, for any programming project, I advise you to make a folder for it. You may, like me, store all of your projects folders in one folder called, for instance, projects or programming. So, let's create the folder that we are talking about. I will call it, for instance, WebXR, but you can call it anytime. I mean, any way you want. Now that we've got a folder that's software, what do you need to make a web application? Well, to do what we want to do, we'll just need two things, like literally just things. Usually when making an HTML website, all we'd need would be a web browser, right? Just to test it out. But you see, due to security needs of modern web browsers and the fact that we'll not be testing our apps on the same device we'll develop them on, we will need a web server that will serve our files as HTTP servers and some sort of a tunnel that will let us access these said applications even if the devices aren't in the same network. The tunnel will also likely give us an option to use an HTTPS version of our app, which is important because some web browsers, like the built-in Oculus Quest web browser, require HTTPS to use the web VR functionality. So let's start by downloading some sort of an HTTP server. There are a couple of ways to do it, some of which you may be familiar with already, like Apache 2, the Python HTTP server, the Node.js HTTP server, or the Microsoft Internet Information Services HTTP server. You get the point, there are many. Because of ease of installation, I'm going to show you how to use the Python one. However, if you have some sort of an HTTP server program installed on your machine already, there is really no reason not to use it instead of what I'm showing. You can just do it. It's highly likely that you have Python already installed, so you can just easily check it. First, go into your terminal or command line and type in Python minus capital V. Of course, there's a space dividing Python and minus V. Then you should press enter if it prints something like this out, saying Python and the number version, you're most likely good to go. If, however, it prints out an error stating that you don't have such a program installed, you will need to install it. It's really easy to do. If you have one, you can install it with your package manager, right? If you don't have one, like me, because I'm on Windows and I didn't install any, you can install it using the guide on their website, or if you're using Windows specifically, Windows 10 or 11, you can simply search for it in the Microsoft Store. It's actually the easiest way because it automatically adds itself to the path. You don't have to check the little button box in the installer. It doesn't take long to install at all, and it's really helpful because of the web server functionality, not even taking in the fact that it's a whole damn programming language. With a web server installed, we can test it out by changing our terminal's directory to the one we want our project to be situated in. Creating a simple HTML file that will, in this case, let us see some big text. Running set files in the web browser to ensure that it works. Then running the HTTP server in that folder with this command, python space minus lowercase m space http dot server. Enter. As you can see, it runs our server on our local machine, represented here by these two colons inside the square parentheses on port 8000. We can see the server in action in our web browser by visiting localhost :8000. It should bring up the very same page it did previously, except now it's handled by our great Python web server. Fantastic! Now we'll need to install the previously talked about tunneling program. There are many, but the one I prefer using is ngrok. It's really easy to use and install. It's just downloading, but by going to ngrok.com, I'm going to download the Windows zipped version. So now we drag it into our project directory and unzip it. And we can run it from the terminal by typing in ngrok http 8000. This command is pretty straightforward. It tunnels the traffic to port 8000, which, as we established earlier, is our HTTP server. Now, by visiting the website, we see in the terminal, we should see the exact same website. Except now, it can be accessed anywhere in the world, because it is tunneled to one. Also, you may see that our app has HTTPS, thanks to that now. So now that we've done all that setup, let's create some sort of a boilerplate HTML website that we'll use for our app in the coming episodes. I'm going to use VS Code for code editing in this video series. You can use any code editing software you prefer, of course. Let's have some fun, shall we? So, to begin making our website, let's define a simple HTML document. Emmet in VS Code has a fun feature that allows me to just write HTML, and yep, that's it. We have a simple website. I mean, it is as simple as you get with, you know, like basic HTML boilerplate. Let's delete that meta tag that we don't need, and let's extend on this one, the viewport meta tag. We just need to define the fact that the user cannot scale the device width. It can't. They can't change it. It just means writing user scalable now here. We will also need a couple more meta tags. We will need ones that will let us define this website as a web app capable website. But first, let's just change the title to WebXR, as for the funny Teams memes. And yeah, now the meta tags, I think. Here, let's write meta, and let's just make it a meta tag. We will write its name as web app capable, right here. And we will define it as yes, because we want it to be. And the second one also refers to web apps, mobile web apps, to be concise, but it defines to Apple specific mobile web apps. So let's just write it right here. So we don't want it to actually be a mobile web app. We just want our devices to think that it is capable of being so. Why? Because the likes of Android devices and Oculus Quest at that really want that. I don't know why, but it just seems to make it all click and work. Now that we've divided these sections, we can actually start on making our HTML. We'll define a header, which is simply a table of contents. It's just like, you know, like a div. It's just some container for things. We'll define a header inside of a header. It's an H2 header, so a smaller one. We'll write some text in it. In this case, I'm going to write a simple WebXR app. And we're going to make a button. The button will, of course, contain text that will let us store and functionality that will let us start our WebXR application. So let's name it XR button or something, and let's write inside of it VR not found, because we don't want it to start our application yet. We only want it to be able to start it once we know that we for sure have a VR device connected, and we can actually start the VR because the web browser is capable. So let's keep it disabled for now. And now that we've got this simple header, I will define a script. We will just connect a simple index.js script to it. Let's make it of type module. And let's just link it. We're going to name it index.js, and we're going to create a file for it. Let's name it index.js again. And now, we're of course not going to write any JS in this tutorial yet. Let's just define the style of our website. Let's define the CSS that will make it, you know, look relatively better than just standard HTML components. Let's define first the background of our body. The background color will be something along the lines of gray, just normal gray, nothing more, nothing less, fortunately. Now let's define the text color of our header. It will be like, thinking something along the lines of purple. I think purple looks nice, relatively good. So let's write H2 color, and this is literally, you can choose anything you want. This will color that text, of course. Now let's define the style for our button. I will choose it via ID, so let's write hashtag XR button. You can of course choose it via the normal HTML tag. You can just write button here. I'm doing this because I want to show you that you can, not necessarily that you have to. I would say that I would actually prefer to do it the other way, just writing button, because it will stylize this way every button on your website. And it will actually not waste bytes like we do here, because this is very byte wasteful. We just defined some simple styles here. We've made it of a specific width and height, and we've gave it a color. Now we're going to give it a border of a specific color and of a specific width. We're going to make it green, and then we will make the background color green, of course, also. So let's do it now. Yep, that color looks about right. We can of course change it, adjust it, make it a totally different color than green. As I said, this is just my convention. Now let's just put that main header on the center of our website, because that will look better. That will be our style. For now, I think that's enough. We can of course now run it and refresh to see our web app. The text seems to not appear properly, so I'm just gonna change it to a more vibrant, something along the lines of bluish, more bluish than purple, really. And let's make this thing also more purple, so that it will be easier to read over the light green colors. And after refreshing, we can see that it actually looks pretty good. So that will be it for this episode. To wrap it all up, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I promise that the next episode is coming just about next week. See you around. If you have had any trouble following this tutorial, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to help in solving your problems. If the full series isn't finished yet, you would likely receive information about episodes coming out if you subscribe and enable notifications. If it doesn't help, which I think may be the case at this point given my YouTube recommendations, you're always free to rate me of your subscription. Have a great afternoon.